Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon, and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by Neil, 10th Man, the Adam Meakin, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Good morning, everybody.
Afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Woo! Can anybody freaking hear me?
Yeah, we hear you, Neil.
Okay.
Glad you checked in the pre-show. How you all doing in Discord? Good to have you.
Great, thanks.
Great.
How are you?
Hello, Arwin.
Hello, good afternoon.
Good
Hi,
afternoon.
Owen.
Been a couple of days off sicknesses in the family, so my apologies for having no live show tomorrow, if you missed it. There was a pre-scheduled show, so I wasn't actually intending to do a live show yesterday anyway. We had intended to go to Legoland. That was my plan. Not that I tend to tell people what my plans are. But then that got cancelled as my wife was very sick on both Sunday and Monday. And I was like, okay, so I will have a live show. And then my internet failed for all of Monday morning till about midday. So then I wasn't going to have a show. But then it started working again, but I'd already had a pre-scheduled show, so I kind of had an easy day looking after my wife. So there you go, there's the reasons and excuses out of the way in case anyone's wondering why there wasn't a live show yesterday and why I look extremely tired. That's why. So let's do a bit of housekeeping. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
Negative. And what's that have to do with tomorrow?
They
What
have a
about tomorrow?
straight line of sight.
What's
with
happening
light
tomorrow?
is bent.
Freudian slip. You said no live show tomorrow instead of yesterday. I think.
Oh, it was an accident. Thank God.
Oh, I said tomorrow instead of yesterday.
Yeah, we were all mortified.
Oh, right, okay. Well, yeah, it's just exhaustion. I'm very tired. So if
Actually, I was looking
drunk,
forward to it.
if I sound drunk, I'm not. Great, what,
If
Alvin?
I
Sorry.
sound drunk, I often am.
Yeah, when you sound drunk, you've often had a few drinks, whereas having very little sleep often has a very similar effect on how you behave. Slurred speech and drowsiness and behaving a bit silly. That's generally what you do when you're drunk and exhausted.
Forgetting what you was talking about mid-sentence.
Things like that, like happened in the pre-show a couple of times. Yeah, that sort of thing, yeah. You've got it.
Whilst we're just on a bit of miscellany, I gave you a quick flash of a screenshot in the pre-show there. Arwin, you must be making waves, my friend. Jose JG's, he's stolen your presentation screen and tweaked it to his own. Have a little.
Oh, yeah, I heard something like that in my chat.
Yeah. Nice compliment in there somewhere.
The early frog show or something?
Yeah.
As
Rabbit?
in, rather than early bird, early frog.
Yeah. But then he's nicked his screenshot. Well, emulation is a
Well, you know what?
form of compliment, isn't it?
I'm kind of fine with him being an early frog show. You know that there's a whole category of birds whose natural prey are frogs. So that's all fine with me.
Yeah, you want to see what bullfrogs can eat. Anyway, fascinating though this is, Adam already said it, imitation is the highest form of flattery.
I guess so.
And on the horizon, though, it seems as if they're wanting to claim that the horizon's a tangent point again.
Oh, right. Oh, I mean, How's that geometric horizon from 2020 working out for you, people who want to claim that you've got a straight line to a physical geometric leading edge of a sphere formerly known as Earth curve? Yeah, we debunked it. Refraction. They have such short memories.
Ah, but he's got a straight line of sight, but the light is still bent.
Straight bent line, eh?
No, the line of sight is straight, but the light is bent.
Yeah. You get to that exact conclusion when you get to Andrew Thomas Young and his description of drawing a line of sight to the geometric horizon, OG, and that's the straight line, aka tangent line, and then he takes that line and draws a second line to a second horizon that you can also see, that's the refracted horizon you'll see with your binoculars. Well, he's just drawn a line of sight that's straight to a tangent point horizon that you can't see, but he's calling it a line of sight to it. Yeah, that's a big problem. We've only got one horizon. Again, we covered this in 2020. It's the I'll bark refraction for 2 straight years, and then when we've said till we're blue in the face that ruins your claims of a geometric model with Earth curve at a tangent point, you just carried on repeating refraction to us. Now you want the tangent point. Yeah, refraction. How do you like it coming back in the opposite direction? Is it fun hearing us bark refraction at you and laughing and asking how that geometry's working out for you?
Yep. I wanted to
They don't
mention
have the
something
tangent.
about this this weird false dichotomy, straight line of sight but bent light. You know where that's really coming from? They're mistaking the virtual straight line of sight within their autographic view model, where you can literally have a straight line of sight, because that form of seeing as you look at the graph is not actually seeing, you see? So then they think, oh, but yeah, you can just have a straight line of sight, just like in the diagram, overlooking that that's not what they're claiming to do in the real world. So they're mixing up actual perspective-based sight again with autographic view in order to claim that they can have a straight line of sight with bent light. That's where it comes from. That's what I think.
Yeah, but they need R for the curve that is going to meet the straight line.
Yeah, but they could just presuppose that.
The tangent.
They don't care about science.
They need the curve for the tangent to meet. What they have is a straight line to a horizontal line. They don't have a tangent. It's missing the curve.
Well, even more to that, they claim the tangent points at their feet in the same model. They say there's a tangent at their feet and the tangent points at the horizon. That just is not possible geometrically.
But it might be possible if you just think of seeing as not actually being optical, but being like you would look at a graph that is autographic view based.
Yeah, that's fine till you look out with a sextant and actually do things in physical reality, and the thing you're doing is measuring an angle.
Yeah, but they never get to that anyway, so it's universally not a problem.
Nathan, can you go to Master B?
Yeah, hold on, let's just address that. Yes, I will get to that 10th. That might be the case for anti-flat earthers, Arwin, but it doesn't alter what celestial navigation is and how it is done. They never get to that. What, the anti-flat earthers that deny measuring an angle using the horizon? Yeah, who cares? Okay, got it up 10.
Good morning, guys.
I know.
Hey,
I was just arguing the root of that statement that Akumu virus brought onto the scene, and that I think is really funny. Straight line of sight, but bent light lines.
You can't have it both ways. If you've got a straight line of sight to the horizon, aka its Earth curve with a tangent point, and it's the leading edge of a sphere and physical, then that's a straight line. Now, if you simultaneously go, oh no, the reason it's behind the thing it's supposed to be blocking, aka the rebuttal to the black swan, is because that straight line, I claim, is a geometric physical limitation to our view called Earth curve. Well, that's straight. It's not straight, it's bent. It's refracted. That becomes the line of sight for a sphere Earth believer in atmosphere, sphere-shaped air. So they've got their atmospheric laws, and those atmospheric laws with light bending at a rate around a sphere based on the hour of the sphere, all of those have a bent line of sight. Well, you can't have it both ways. We've only got one horizon.
You can if you
Well,
deploy
unless
it
you
in
forget,
orthographic view, you see?
unless you just choose to forget that you actually see with light. Like you have a straight line of sight, but your light's bent.
Exactly. Unbelievable, says Godzilla37. You missed every one of my 14 super chats yesterday. A new record. Oh, and good morning. Smiley face. Thank you very much for the super chat. I really appreciate the support. I'm sorry I missed all 14 of them yesterday when I wasn't live streaming. Sorry to cut you off, Chocolate.
That's right.
While we're on the subject, though, any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle
Hang
measurement?
hang on. You were supposed.
Okay, calculating atmospheric refraction.
All right, we got a subject matter expert, Andrew Thomas Young. Let's read what he says. Calculating atmospheric refraction. All the discussion above deals with plane surfaces, but the Earth isn't flat. To deal with refraction in a curved atmosphere, we have to introduce some geometrical considerations, which have been put on a separate page. Now, what's interesting is that they need a physical blockage of the bottom of boats and buildings. And here's Andrew Thomas Young saying that all of his refraction studies never originated from a curved Earth. What does he say we live on? And how did he ever get it? Well, if he's saying Earth isn't flat, but all of his studies came from flat, then he must not be living on a sphere, because then all of his studies would have come from a curve. I mean, this is so ridiculous that you have to take flat Earth refraction measurements or calculations and then say, but we don't live on a flat Earth, but that's the only way I got them. And then now, if you want to go here, I'll show you how I can make a sphere out of it. Ridiculous.
So, any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? Thank you, 10th.
No.
No, you can't have elevation from a curve, no.
Yeah, that
If
was.
they, sorry, like that.
No, just gonna say, 10th, excellent. That was well said. It's not a sphere, but you know, we're gonna use a plane. Same way of this, you know, it's a sphere, but we're gonna go ahead and use that plane right there on top of that ball, but not really, because when we really show you what we're doing, it's just the celestial sphere, which is like, you know, the stars over a plane that they just do like a outline of a sphere around, but you're traveling on the plane.
I was going to make fun of the dingleberry too.
About any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth? This is the passage, actually, before we go past this, as it's on screen right now, and 10th just mentioned Andrew Thomas Young. Can we see that on screen? Let's just line it up a little bit better. There we go. Okay. And drawn the line of sight to the apparent horizon. The straight line OG. Okay? So let's just look at what I've underlined. Line of sight. We're all clear what line of sight is? It means the line that you're seeing something with. Straight line. OG. Okay, so we've got a line of sight to a straight line. What is it to? It's to the apparent, meaning it appears. You can see it. Yeah? Now, which line is that? OG. The OG line I've highlighted. That's a straight line. So Andrew Thomas Young, in his description of the horizon, has a line of sight to an apparent horizon. And then he clarifies it's a straight line. There it is. However, this entire document is actually detailing how the line of sight that we will see isn't the line of sight to the apparent horizon with a straight line, OG, that's this line. It's actually H. And he's explaining how the horizon that we see is marked H and has a bent line to it. Now, why would he have two horizons? One with a straight line to it, marked at G, and it's got a line of sight to an apparent horizon, and it is definitely a straight line. But yet, the entirety of it is explaining how the singular one alone, we only have one horizon, is marked from O to H with a bent line. Well, that's because they need to refract the horizon beyond its geometric limitations, but they can't have their cake and eat it. You've either got to accept that this diagrammatical example in Muppet Vision is explaining how we have two horizons, because the H to O position isn't a line of sight that's straight to OG and isn't apparent. So which is it? Two horizons, or you haven't got your Earth curve edge geometry OG? Because OG is what's claimed to be blocking boats and buildings and physically limits your view. You can't have it both ways. We've only got one horizon. The horizon in the Earth curve maths is OG. The horizon in this diagram is OH. So which is it? Have we got two horizons? Definitely not. Is the horizon OG? No, we debunked that in 2020. It's beyond the geometric limitations of an Earth sphere radius 3959. Beyond the oil rigs when it should be at 1.2 miles, if it's physical. So therefore bent. OH. So the horizon's beyond its claim of physically blocking things as Earth curve then. It's not blocking things in the distance. It's not got boats going over it. It's not blocking the Chicago skyline to have the Chicago skyline refracted back up like a hologram. So it's not Earth curve. Because we've only got one, and according to this diagram, you've got a bent line that's bent based on the radius taken from a measurement of OG to R. This is the R value in that triangle. So if you've got a geometric value and a claimed radius, you can't be bending the line that you need to make that claim in the first instance. We've only got one horizon. I'm done.
I was going to say, too, because they'll jump between this and placing the tangent at their feet in the celestial sphere model. But, you know, the celestial sphere model has a horizon in it where the sky and ground meet. So they're basically asserting that a straight line can be tangent to a sphere at 3 points, and that's just not possible.
Any evidence the distance is the
Did
sun?
you wait?
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
go on. Feel free.
Did you say that there was a horizon in the celestial sphere model?
Not exactly.
Yes, there is.
There's a baseline. Sorry, my bad, John. He was asking you, not me. Sorry.
Yes,
Yeah.
there is.
Can you explain?
There's a point where the celestial sphere meets the flat Earth in the celestial sphere model.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
But there isn't, for the reasons that Arwen gave earlier. It's Muppet Vision.
Yeah, but to be fair, it's horizon in name only. They use horizon, horizontal, and then horizon again, all to mean similar things when they're not. They're category errors.
Right. What you have in that sphere model, the celestial sphere model, is a horizontal baseline. Now, you can have the edge of your periphery in terms of what you can view in that model, but it's represented in Muppet Vision, isn't it? It's an orthographic model.
Right, but in most orthographic models, they're not trying to demonstrate the sky either, you know. I'm just saying that there is a horizon in the celestial sphere model.
Where's that horizon?
Where the land and sky meet.
Right, where we
In that
perceive
model.
it. Yeah, you go ahead.
Yeah, but
Chocolate. Eli, go ahead.
no, but that's in reality. So in in the celestial sphere model, where you're in orthographic view, what is the horizon described as in numerical values? How is that derived?
It's not. It's just used as a flat baseline.
0 degrees, John.
Oh,
Isn't that
so
what
it's
I said
just
in
the
the first
plane
place?
already. There is no horizon.
Right,
Like I said yesterday.
There is, because that's establishing your horizontal in reality. So when you're referencing your
Right,
model
right.
to what you use, there is a reference, and it is not just you correlating with it. You're going to be using it to map out your position. So it's not the right word to say it just correlates with the horizontal baseline you establish with your horizon. And correct, it can be labelled as such, and is labelled as horizon. There's many different horizons in name only.
Okay, I understand that.
But
Right,
that's where
horizon is really your horizontal. Right.
Well, yes, exactly. Your horizon really is your horizontal, but it's claimed to be Earth curved, a physical limitation to your view. That's what the horizon's claimed to be if you're a baller. If you're a sphere Earth believer, that's Earth curve. So while we're describing the mapping and locating of your position by way of the heavens and the lights in them, that requires a horizontal baseline, and you can acquire that with the horizon, and you can transpose that onto a model that uses Muppet vision and places you at the centre with a horizontal baseline that's correlated with the horizon that you measured to measure it up with the map that you've got. So, that's how it works. Until you introduce a geometric limitation to your view at the horizon, because that's Earth curve. Ergo, Earth curve doesn't work with navigation. The horizon's still used with navigation, and you can call a parallel to your position in the sky a type of horizon. It isn't, but you can call it that. It doesn't alter the fact that in physical reality, what you're acquiring from the horizon, what you're using the horizon for with your tool, and how that's then transposed into finding your position, is all done flat and all done with a horizontal baseline. Completely ballsed up if you think the horizon's Earth curve. It isn't.
We don't necessarily use the horizon in celestial navigation. We have a flat baseline. If we're using a sextant at sea, that's when we use the horizon, and we're only using it to define a level, to provide a parallel line to the flat baseline, knowing that as long as it's parallel to the baseline, the angle measurements will meet up irrespective of our height. So we don't specifically use the horizon for anything. It's just an optical tool for leveling the sextant.
Yeah. The sensible horizon, you mean? Yeah, you can call what you've just detailed in terms of a process. You can give that a name as a horizon, though, can't you? And they do. There's hundreds. Not hundreds, that's an exaggeration.
Where you're using it and what you're using it for seems to be even though it's the same point of this.
It's there to establish an ID.
Yeah, and the ground, which presents as a horizontal baseline to reference with all of this stuff, matches up if you do this process and, I don't know, use a bubble sextant in the air and then call what you're establishing as a horizontal plane parallel to the ground that doesn't exist at all. It's in the air. But the fact that it's parallel with the ground is all that matters.
Exactly. So
I got
the bubble sextant's a good 1/10, isn't it? Because that demonstrates the point. As long as we attain a plane that is parallel to the surface, then we can move on. And in the case of a bubble sextant, the horizon doesn't come into it. It's not mentioned because we've already got our flat parallel line to the surface. So we don't need to use the horizon, so we don't reference it.
Yeah,
the only time we do reference is for attaining a level. That's why we use it.
Yeah, that picture that you just put up, Nathan, that will show you the sensible horizon at the eye height of the observer. And that's using a bubble sextant so that you have your horizontal with a bubble, no need for dip correction. And then when you're at sea using the Earth's horizon, the height that your eyes are above the sea level would make that bottom parallel straight line, that plane that you see under the sensible horizon. So to establish 90, just like Adam said.
Well, what I was going to say is the celestial sphere model doesn't make any allowance for the distance to the horizon. So
It's infinite.
There's no distances in. Sorry.
It's not even infinite, is it, John? It's just arbitrary. It's not.
Right. It's just a place where the land and sky meet in that model.
It could be 500 miles. It could be 3,000 miles. It could be all of 90, 5,400 miles. It has to have a flat baseline.
Well, depending on your equipment that you're viewing it with, it's all of the above, depending on the circumstances. As an example, right, if you take the Black Swan, you're looking out at oil rigs, and the horizon is beyond them. Okay, fine, we all understand. We've all seen the picture of the Black Swan. If you haven't, go and check it out. Either way, if you're actually stood at the beach and you just look out at the horizon, you can't even see the oil rigs. You can see the horizon, but your eye isn't good enough to resolve that speck in the distance. So as far as you're concerned, there's no oil rigs, there's nothing, right? There's your horizon, and that's what you see. Now you pick up a little zoom camera, just a little bit more than your eyes can do. Now let's go the other way. You pick up an iPhone, and the island that you could see in the foreground, before the horizon, that's gone. Why? Well, because it's got a smaller aperture. So it's resolving even less. so you get less out of it. So you're seeing less. So you look at your picture in your phone and you go, why can't I see that stuff that I could see before? Yeah, because it's got a smaller aperture. The converse, you go the other way, you get a super zoom camera, and you can see the people showering on the bloody oil rig. Right? Why? Because it's got a much bigger aperture. Okay. So you've moved the horizon in all three of those different circumstances just by changing the aperture on a clear day. So where's the horizon? Well, it's probably about 3 or 4 miles with my eyes. No. Check it out with my iPhone. It's only at 2, maybe even 1 mile. Well, check it out if I get my P900 out. It's beyond 10. Yeah. So
Where's the horizon? Is the good answer to that is it's in the eye. It's in the lens. And those three examples exemplify that. The horizon's in the lens. It's a limitation.
Well, the biggest confusion for the Globers is the GP, right? The almanac gives you the GP on the circuit across all the latitude and longitude lines. A certain star formation is going to follow a specific latitude. It's going to constantly go in that circuit. They know where the GP is directly underneath that star. So when you know the GP and you see that star in your angle and your north, south, east, and west, you know exactly which direction you are from the island that's right underneath that star.
yeah, only possible on a flat plane.
But they overlook the GP and the almanac. The almanac is ground position, where the surface is, where that star would be if you look straight up.
Yep.
That's what exposes them every time they don't every time they want to do these tricks with Polaris and all that. I'm like, well, what's Greenwich time about? Like, how do we get the angles from where from? Like, what's the process? And then you walk through the process, a whole bunch of elevation angle measurements or zenith measurements, times taken, and all of this has what to do with a sphere exactly when? When does that come in?
It doesn't.
Almost like with Andrew Thomas Young, it comes in later, doesn't it?
No, it doesn't.
Well,
I mean, it can't. It can't without violating the original origin of the measurement and the celestial sphere model that you're actually using when you plonk down those flat Earth angle measurements to get your position. So when does it transpose onto a sphere? After you're home, after you've figured out where you are and you're moving on with your journey. That's when.
Well, didn't Zanuck agree with Andrew? Didn't Zanuck agree with Andrew Thomas Young, as Eli is saying, that you got to start with the flat plane first, and then you make adjustments. That's what Zanuck said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of how you move on, well, they get the angle from a flat plane and then they insert it into complicated maths and make it work with a tangent point to a sphere that isn't the ground. And they've made it very clear, isn't the ground. So it doesn't even work with a sphere.
No, that's why they pre-assume.
Natural.
That's why they pre-assume the center, which is the equatorial plane, where they can achieve an angle from a plane, a disk. Well, they can never get it from the surface, but that's where the sextant is. So if the sextant is being used at the surface and it's working, then the surface is the plane, not the presupposed center of a dingleberry that doesn't exist, that you draw under all of those tangent planes that you put on the surface to say, well, we're getting the angle from this.
It's a category error there, because the celestial sphere is an azimuthal projection that you cut in half. The center of that projection is at the base of your feet. You don't use the bottom half.
That's correct. So it's, again,
that's the whole thing that they miss, is cutting the box in half. You're only using the half that you need, where the freaking stars are, to the plane that you created, so that you know how far away you are from the latitude and longitude of where that star is going to be directly over at a specific time. So you know where the heck you're at.
Exactly. That projection is there's more to meets the eye with the azimuthal equidistant projection, because most people assume that it's that one map, when in reality that's just a North Pole centric azimuthal equidistant projection. That is to say that you're projecting out the map from you at the center, and you can do it from anywhere. So I think there's a picture of JFK on Air Force One with Texas as the center point of an azimuthal equidistant projection. And just rather than the North Pole being in the middle, Texas is in the middle. And it's basically what you've just described with your distance and angle measurements to any position from Texas, out with your perspective view from there to where you can see the edges of, in terms of where the stars would represent where they'd be over until they hit about 15 degrees and become useless to measure. Well, 15 degrees from what? The flat plane you'll measure them on. But it's still just a projection. So my introduction to that was somebody pointing out, I don't know, 7 years ago, that there's multiple versions of the azimuthal equidistant map. And I found very quickly a South Pole centric one. And then you find there's all sorts of different versions. Then you realise that it's not actually that it's necessarily just a map. You can make a map from it. It's a system of projection from your location. And you can do it from anywhere you like. So established is it at mapping out a flat plane from your position to the perspective view of the stars from that position, that you can map out a map anywhere and it'll work.
On screen.
Amazing. Oh, really? Oh, cool. What is it on screen?
Yeah.
The JFK Air Force One map.
Oh, hold on, AI. You're breaking up for a start, but
just on screen is what you just described. So the
parallel planes.
Can't hear me. Telling him he's breaking up. If you can hear me, AI, you're breaking up. I don't know if you want to drop and rejoin. Yes. There we go. Good enough. Let's see if I can make it a bit bigger for the audience's benefit. Just bear with me a second. There we go. Okay. You get the general idea. It's tiny. You've not got a better picture.
That's amazing. If you've been following along for this long, I would assess that this show is a very, very good show to share with loved ones. This first 36 minutes has been jam-packed with all of the main reasons the Earth is not a globe, and it's been done so eloquently. I really appreciate the show, guys. Love it.
I'd like to thank my mother, the Academy, all of my friends and family. I couldn't have done it without any of them. Mostly I want to thank Adam for this on-screen representation that we were just talking about. I was going to make a gag because it wasn't at the moment. But there we go. There we go. You can see it with arrows pointing at it really clearly now. Adam hasn't done this. He's found someone on the internet that's obviously posted this and gone, look here with this arrow.
These are two very famous flat earthers. Look, there's Chippy the Chipmunk.
Okie dokie. Let's move on.
Well, before we move on, can an elevation angle ever be achieved with a curved baseline?
No, it cannot. An angle's
But
two
that
straight
answer right
lines.
there. That answer right there. And then remember when we first started this journey, and they would come on and say, don't say 90. Why are people who are interested in the truth telling us not to say 90 when all the celestial navigation books mention it to nausea, that you got to minus the elevation angle from 90? What's a 90 if it's not a right angle?
It is a right angle.
You have a
won't work
right
with a
angle
curve.
from a curved baseline.
Yeah, that won't work. As shown
Okay.
by Alberuni
They're
when he
trying to-
measured the height of the mountain.
They're trying to.
Shout out to Mike 808 for the super chat. Thank you. Go ahead. Keep calling you chocolate. Go ahead, Eli.
Yeah, they're trying to confuse people by telling people, no, you're actually subtracting from your zenith. There is no 90-degree all the way out to the GP and all this. It's really disgusting to see them do, you know? Because I don't know who's listening at those times, but just for them to be doing that is real slimy.
Well,
Zanuck.
when you use a bubble sextant, there is no dip correction because you're using the bubble to establish horizontal, and it is using the observer's zenith, which is creating a 90 to that horizontal called the sensible horizon, the eye line of the bubble sextant. So the sextant with the bubble is held at the eye of the observer, not at his feet, and it's showing a horizontal because the bubble is in the middle, which gives him a 90. So he's getting a 90 there, and he just doesn't do dip correction. When he's at sea, you can't use a bubble sextant because the ship is tossing, but you don't even go that way. You shoot the horizon. Then you take dip correction to get your eyeballs to the surface of the water, as we've read many times. Now you got your 90 using the Earth's surface. And then you minus that elevation angle from 90 to get the co-altitude, which gives you the zenith angle, which the bubble sextant gives you automatically. But using the Mariner sextant citing the Earth's horizon, it's a two-step process. Same answer, two-step process. Second one, proving the Earth is flat.
Should we move on? Any more on elevation angle measurements or navigation across the flat plane? No? Any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon for all the fundy believers in a sky vacuum known as outer space?
Well, here we go, denying the necessary antecedent to pressure in the first place, which is containment and gas molecules bouncing off the walls of a container.
Now they believe in
I
the
was just gonna
gradient.
say you killed it with the word antecedent.
Now they believe in the gradient, and they believe that a super thick, comparatively thick layer of gas pressure can sit to some point in space versus a giant amount of volume of extremely low pressure. That's what they think is possible, yet they can never demonstrate a gradient that is like that ever.
Don't they need a container to demonstrate a gradient, Arwen?
I had one this morning on
Yes.
one of on the stream that I put out in the mornings. I may drop that because it doesn't get a great number of people watching them. That said, the few people do watch them after the fact, but only as many people as watch the old archived shows anyway. So I may drop that morning show unless I get a huge number of objections when I've said it now. In any event, I was monitoring it this morning. It's mainly for me. I want to watch it in the mornings. That was the reason why I started publishing them. Anyway, I digress. Someone was in the chat stream this morning saying that the gas, quote, hugs the Earth. Hugs the Earth. That's a new one on me. Gas is now hugging Earth. It's giving it a good old cuddle.
Aw, that's so cute.
Isn't it just? Unbonded. Yeah, no, those aren't words that if you're a commitment phobe, you're going to like the sound of.
So is there a new category, hugging law?
It's
Gas hugging law?
unbonded. Unbonded. It's not hugging anybody. Yeah? It's on its own. It's like each gas is its own entity. They're all individual on their own, unbonded,
You know what?
alone.
You know what they'll say?
They'll say no gas particles in Ireland.
Nope, not even. I'm talking about the really absurd, like I was dealing with over the weekend. Yeah, they'll say, but when you have a bonded pair of cats, they're not attached.
Sorry, cats.
Yeah.
Are you talking about mating
They'll be dead
cats?
serious too.
Mating cats, are you talking about?
Mm-hmm. And then you have a bonded pair that you adopt. You can't adopt one without the other because they're inseparable.
Yeah.
They do realize,
You know,
Bruh.
it would be a real like, what the hell does this have to do with
Siamese
anything?
cats?
It's a
Sorry,
major.
Just to be clear, are these Siamese cats, as in they're physically bonded together, or
No,
you know,
no, they're
with somebody with two upper limbs could definitely achieve the separation, sort of thing?
no, they're not actually bonded together. But you see, Nathan, I just showed you things that are bonded together that aren't literally bonded together. So why are you lying to your audience, Nathan?
So you showed me things that were unbonded. That's fantastic. Cats. I mean, it's a new one on me. I've got to be honest, Eli. But if you want cats as this example, fine. Shout out to Godzilla37. In school, Phil was so sure he was a wizard, wearing a pointed hat and every day until his only friend pointed out that hat said dunce on it. He never recovered. Okay.
What they were doing there is they're trying to get you to think they're reifying love into a physical bond is what they're doing.
That's a $13 ad hom right there. Thank you for the super chat, Godzilla.
You know, because literally, I said that you couldn't possibly. The problem is, you kind of don't have enough information to determine something if you've used only one of your five senses, with the caveat that you can use one sense if you've experienced it with multiple senses already.
I find with caviar,
I've already got a
like smelling coffee. Like you've seen it and you've mixed it in. You know what's going on there. So when you smell it, you know it's like, oh, that's coffee. And then they said, well, there's actually 7 senses, more than that. And this is what I mean by, like, they'll deadass just be super ridiculous instead of appreciating that. Yeah, you're right. I can't do something like look at the sky and determine anything.
Well,
what do
I
they claim
already
are
have a problem.
About the sky.
What are the 6th and 7th sense?
All I know, I don't know. All I know is the dude said you can. One of the senses is seeing the horizon, and the other sense is temperature, which is affecting the horizon. And I said, yeah, man, I'm out. I'm not coming back, fam, because you moderators aren't like, this is ridiculous now.
I have a problem with the whole statement. It's incomplete. We all know when it rains, it's raining dogs and cats. So why are the dogs left out of this?
Did he assert temperature was a sense?
Yeah,
yeah, man. Yeah, man.
That's ridiculous.
I know, man. This is what happens when you hit them with like the arguments or logic that with rhetoric that they haven't dealt with before. Like, remember when the Black Swan first came out and Zanuck was like, there's 2 horizons. You can see him right there. Like, the darker water right there, and then the horizon right there back there. Yeah, that when they first deal with an issue, they're not really that good on their toes. That's how a liar
That's
sounds.
when they're at their funniest, actually.
I've lost track
So
of where
no
we
one
are in
got my
housekeeping.
cats and dogs statement.
Sorry, you wanted more recognition for your cats and dogs reign?
Well, maybe you'll get it later.
I just thought it was a bit of a rough joke.
Very good. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
Define scientific.
Establishment of cause and effect relationships by systematic experimentation based on a hypothesis.
Ooh, that's going to be tough. Right?
The
Because it's
answer
kind
is
of
no.
gravity
There's
is
plenty
an
of mathematics.
colloquial thing. Gravity is an elusive colloquial thing, so yeah, they don't really know what it is. They have a rough idea of what to associate with gravity, but they don't actually know what it is. Like, not even the experts.
So based on what Nathan said, do we have that? No, I can't go back in history and find where there was a valid hypothesis that could be tested to substantiate the claim that gravity is a thing, a phenomenon. So there you go.
What's the current definition of it?
Current definition is the bending of space-time.
Sorry, gravity, the causal phenomenon. My bad.
No, that's the effect. The effect of gravity is the bending of space-time. The cause is the uneven distribution
No, I mean,
of mass.
sorry, before you said that.
Say again?
I'm sorry, I meant before you said that, I was correcting myself. I guess it was just bad timing. Back when it was mass attracting mass, it's like you see things drop, that's the effect that causes gravity. But anyway, no, you move beyond that.
Yeah, right. You're correcting your last statement, the one before.
It's still taught, mass attracting mass.
No, it isn't. That's 107 years out of date.
Despite that, it's still being taught in schools.
Doesn't matter.
In school, I still had a demonstration of why mass supposedly attracts mass. So it is still
a demo.
Despite.
Now this has got juicy. What was that? You said you had a demo.
Yes. Yeah, in school, one time, a guy, I think from NASA actually, came over and showed like this metal contraption. It wasn't a Cavendish situation, something else, and then just like, oh look, see, when I move this scale over here under this ball, oh, it measures like an attraction somehow. But I couldn't like tinker with it, and immediately it looked like, yeah, but that's metal, so it's probably some kind of a magnet. But I wasn't supposed to touch it, so
Nathan,
it was all just a setup. But it is still being taught, like, and that was in, I think, in '94 or something.
Nathan, you were about to go through it. So the uneven distribution of mass causes what?
The bending of space-time, or the bending of pseudo-Riemannian force space.
And how do they know that?
No, it's just a mathematical description. There's nothing to know. It's not a physical description of anything that's occurring. It's a description in a mathematical geometry known as pseudo-force space.
What's force space?
Length, breadth, depth, and time.
What's time?
A concept.
How do you bend the concept?
You don't.
You
bend the
concept when it's part of a dimension.
You bend the concept conceptually.
Yes, that's right.
I took, when he asked me how do you bend, correct me if I'm wrong, I took that to mean how do you physically interact and perform the action of bending time. Was that what you actually meant, as opposed to how you think about it conceptually, as Chocolate's retorted with?
Yes.
Yeah, physically you don't bend it, though. I mean, bending, dilating, those things to me describe physical actions. My eye can dilate. A ruler can bend. Time can do neither. But it's described in pseudo-Riemannian force space-time as bending and dilating and warping.
Right, so since there is not a physical component to it and is purely conceptual, then you can't interact with it physically. You can only interact with it conceptually.
Correct. That might be a tricky word by you, Armin. Maybe not. I'll interact. What do you mean by interact? I know what interact means. Do you know what interact means?
Well, you could interact with the mind.
Wouldn't it be like the kid telling Neo that there is no spoon?
Hold on, let's just get to the bottom of this chocolate.
It's the same shit.
Hold on. Let's just get to the bottom of what Arwin's doing. He might not be doing anything. He might just accidentally have used a word he didn't mean. Inter, what does inter mean? Like interplay? What's action? What does action mean? As in interact?
Inter is just like a cross connection.
Ah, we covered that.
And
what's the
action.
act bit? What's action? Act. It's describing
well,
interplay.
Action requires a consciousness to, act, to decide and then do something.
Right, but there's got to be an interplay between another thing. Right, so to interact with time, yeah, that implies some physical interaction. So in terms of when you describe mono, singular, you thinking about it, conceptualizing, there's no interplay.
But we're not actually interacting with the time.
But that's the word you used. That's my point.
Hold on. We're interacting with the concept of time.
Right, you're not. There's no interplay. If it's singular, if you're just considering it, even if you're discussing it, that's not an interplay. That's a dialogue.
No, it can also apply to information, which is a physically proven substance.
Yeah, but your conceptualization of it could be described as an internal dialogue, as in you discussing it with yourself, considering it, conceptualizing it. But the word I took objection with was the interactive bit, the interplay that you don't actually have in physical terms. Now, I don't think you did it intentionally. I laboured it just because that's what the show's about, right? It's the semantics.
Are you
the
saying
words
that you
meaning.
can't interact with something that you are imagining or dreaming? Is that not an interaction internally?
No, I just covered that. That's an internal dialogue, not an interaction.
I think this is semantical. We
Yeah,
have to
it
get
is
into the
words have
logical
meanings.
because I disagree.
Yeah, words have meanings. Interaction was just a poor choice of words. That's all. Just say okay.
I might agree with Arwin.
Yeah, there you go.
Arwin, what do you mean?
Elijah agrees.
The hell?
I'm right.
You might agree with
No,
Arwin.
I mean,
Are we all conceptually bending a spoon that's not there? What are we talking about?
okay, look.
It does
synonyms.
exist.
Synonyms.
It exists conceptually within our mind where we interact with it.
Hold on. He's got synonyms. I think that's much more important. Go ahead.
All right, synonym, interplay. I do play in my dreams.
We don't need
Interchange,
that.
interact.
No need.
Yeah, all right. Interchange, interactivity, interconnection, interlinkage. Let's see if they're reciprocity, exchange, reaction, relationship, interrelation, interrelatedness, interdependence, association, link, correspondence.
Right,
interaction doesn't mean it's physical interaction.
Hold on. Say again.
Interaction does not mean it's a physical interaction.
It does in this instance. We're talking about how we can bend or dilate time.
Well, then you would need to prove time's physical first before it can be a physical interaction.
Right. And in that context, when Arwin used the word interact, I objected contextually correctly. Let's just get that straight, John. Shout out to Godzilla 37.
I agree.
Yeah, it is semantics.
Me too. I'm jumping
You are
ship.
just emphasizing the more physical, tangible element to it.
Yeah, I
right?
knew it. See, I knew it.
But hold on, there's also the other side of the word. It doesn't necessarily have to be like that.
Yeah, but that's what you were weaseling in. I suspected you knew the word. I knew it. I knew you were trying to weasel it in. I didn't. I even defended you, going, I don't think you've done it intentionally. Yeah, you bloody had. Either way, or you figured out the word's meaning.
Things
you've
intentionally. I
decided that's
just
what you meant.
don't always know ahead of time.
Because this is kind of nonsensical, I think Eli's word was the best, interplay. Because there is no physicality, but I'm looking at a reciprocal relationship, action or influence. He uses an example, the interplay of plot and character. That's why I think it's better, because there is no real physical thing, but apparently one could affect the other. So I would suggest they have an interplay, but they couldn't have an interaction.
All right. Well, I would agree
claim
to the
would
use of that word.
I really don't know. The claim of physicality is. I've lost my train of thought there, my summation. But
well, you can get it back. Get it back while I shout out Godzilla 37. If you ever fail at your YouTube career, Nathan, you can be a butcher. Just ask my super chats. You're good at it. Saying I ruined his super chats by reading that.
Yo, Godzilla is the man.
Thank you so much, Godzilla. And no, I do appreciate the support. You can abuse me all you like with money.
Look, it's back. So the point I make is, but the claim in of itself is a physical. Yeah, mass distributes. Mass affects the distribution of the time, which affects the way in which the mass behaves. It's having a physical effect in their claim. So how is this thing, which isn't physical, interacting, or is it even? But I'm sure within their claim, it's having a physical effect. It moves. It creates the effects of gravity, doesn't it? Which has an effect on mass. They're claiming. So it has to have an interaction. Is what I was going to say.
Thank you, Adam. Exactly. We're not just
I'm
sitting
sorry.
around. We're not just
I'm
sitting
sorry,
around
I'm gonna
defining
have to
words
fall
for the sake
back.
of it. We're actually doing it within the context of the question, which is any scientific evidence of gravity. And the only way you can even imply such evidence is through semantics. And, whether or not Arwin did it intentionally before with forethought or after he decided, no, actually, that was quite useful to wangle in the physicality just with one word. But even if he had or hadn't, it doesn't matter. Discussing the semantics of it within the context is how we debate here. That's what we're up against, isn't it? Because if you get down to the brass tacks of it, there is no physical interplay. That's the bottom line here. But do we argue about there being an interplay in physical reality with this thing called gravity? Yeah, we do, definitely. So the semantics of the somebody who might have at a, I don't want to say subconscious level, but at some level recognised that there isn't actually this claim to be force, but they still want to believe in the globe Earth, i.e. the anti-flat earthers we debate about. All they have is the semantics of how they can weasel in a non-force force that you can think of as a force because I give you permission. That's what we've got to do.
Can I
we have
please?
to do this.
No, Arwen, hang on.
No, but this is direct.
You've had your shot at it. Come on, man.
No, I want to round it out.
Yeah, I want to round it out. Nathan, mass attracts mass was Newton, but in 1915 they brought time in it. Why did they need to throw Newton under the bus and bring this concept time into it? Can you give us some background?
Because then you don't have anything claimed to be in the physical realm. You take it from the physical, which can easily be debunked. Mass is not attracting mass, and we can show that with gas. So take it out of the physical and take it into the conceptual. I suspect that, if nothing else, if we continue in a heliocentric paradigm run by the church, as we have done for a very long time, after we're all dead and buried, what the only change that we might influence is that they'll have to do something similar with Coriolis effect. That's my only conclusion. The reason it's so wrapped up in doublespeak nonsense and contradictions in the citations for it is because it has to be. It's a claim to be globe Earth bearing effect, i.e. a physical demonstratable effect in reality that you can go out and test for yourself. There's claimed to be a globe-based Coriolis effect, as we term beneath things that aren't attached. They exhibit drift according to the claim. Well, that's something that was similar 107 years ago to the physical claims of Cavendish and alike of a mass attracting another mass, which simply isn't the case. So when you have a debunkable physical reality claimed to be attached to your conceptual globe Earth, you need to take that away from the physical and testable and put it into the conceptual, which is why I suspect that happened with gravity, and why I suspect that may very well be a short-lived celebration from me in terms of, wow, look, we're really getting some ground, gaining ground with Coriolis, because it doesn't happen. And, our convoluted arguments about it, now they're getting more concise, will just result in a reaction that has to take Coriolis effect into the conceptual also. How they do that, who knows? But that might be the only actual impact we ever make as flat earthers in our time here. Coriolis is now new Coriolis with Fizz.
Owen, your quote's got the okie doke in it.
Dude, can I please do it myself? I know. I was going to make the point.
Yeah,
we were both right.
Can you calm down?
We were both right.
Owen.
Yeah, Arwin, I'm trying to move on.
Have a
Any
chill pill.
single viable hypothesis? No,
Dude,
go ahead, Alvin.
what is this?
I'm
Come
only
on.
joking. Go ahead.
Come on. I was just saying we were both right equally, right? So I took the word in the more general meaning, and then it's exactly what I said it was. That's what I was emphasizing. But then there's this special headline here, physics, and in that definition, it is apparently exactly like what Nathan said. It is really emphasizing a physical interaction. So that is just like hilarious. So we were both equally right.
No, we weren't.
No, that was the
we
whole
were
point.
not equally right. No, because our discussion was hyper-specific. Your colloquial general use doesn't get you off the hook and make you right. That's why I challenged it. Colloquially, yeah, you were right. But why would it require a challenge at all from me? The fact that the challenge proved to be right just shows how wrong you were.
Just chocolate.
No.
If you have a look at the okie doke, can you see it? Owen, can you just scroll it a little bit across so I can read it? Look, a particular way
What, in
which
physics, you mean?
matter, fields, and atomic and subatomic particles affect one another, e.g., through gravitation or electromagnetism. Now, we know electromagnetism, but look, they've just chunked this gravitation in to make out it's having a physics effect, but there's no evidence for this, the gravitation side.
Yeah, I skipped on that part because then I would just only me would be right, but I'm giving it to you, right?
You're so generous.
Yes, I am. No, but
How
the
kind.
point was because it is a pure concept, it is not actually physics related, pseudo-Riemannian force space. That's why I drew it into the non-physics field where my interpretation of the word interaction was correct. It's just when you actually claim it is physics related, which it isn't because it's purely mathematical and conceptual, then you would have a point. But it isn't.
I totally understand, and you are correct, but that is the very essence of why I highlighted that particular word and its usage. Yeah. Okay, if you weren't reasonable, which you are, and you were the baller doing that, you could argue that vehemently, couldn't you, Arwin? Your colloquial use of it being correct, and you could probably define it. And I could bring up this citation, and you could argue all day about this aspect of how the colloquial use is correct, even though the discussion was hyper-specific, about the physical reality of bending time, which you can't.
I would end up getting funny muted for sure.
Is that an equivocation fallacy?
No, not in this context. It's just there's two different uses of the word.
Right. Isn't equivocation when you do have multiple uses of a word and the arguers.
But no, because I'm not doing it with both uses by me. Arwin's seen a definable use of the word, and as far as he's concerned, contextually, if we ignore the veil of the hyper-specific conversation we were having, he's right in its context. And I'm saying no, that potentially. Now, it might be with hindsight Arwin's realised to argue this, and I'm glad he has. It doesn't matter if it's after the fact he's recognised it. That is a useful route in for a fundy. And that's what I highlighted a second ago. I was like, this is what we do. And Arwin's like, it's just semantics. It's like, that's all they've got. They don't have any physical reality to demonstrate this stuff with, so they will just use the semantics.
Right, but I was saying that the globe to prove the ball, though. I'm just want the freedom of the words because I like the dynamic of words. And
that's the point, isn't it? It's a Socratic disagreement. We can't go past. To continue this discussion, we have got to define interaction in the context of the debate we're having. And as soon as we do, then there's no evidence to support its interaction.
So let me ask it this way. Because I'm thinking about a globe earther who's using interaction in the context of real when he will be explaining the mathematical not real. Wouldn't that be an equivocation fallacy?
Yes, precisely. Rather than it being a discussion.
That's what I mean.
Yes, that's right, and that's why we're discussing it. Yeah, and now I see why you're bringing it up. Yeah, it would be if it was weaponized and I did the okie doke back and forth between two as an anti-flat earther in debate with you. Why is it today I keep calling you? It's because last week you sounded really deep. Eli, you don't today. You don't sound anything like chocolate. Anyway, yeah, that is precisely why I've highlighted it and why we've discussed it at this length. There may be people in the audience who are like, why are they discussing this? Why are they going to the nth degree with this? Well, yeah, because that's the tools they have, the equivocation they would use. But now we've pulled it apart. Hopefully, it will cement itself in every member of the panel's mind when it happens.
Right. Well, the next time interaction is brought up and argued by a baller, I will know. Like, oh, you mean within physics, or you mean in general? Let's be specific here, right?
Absolutely.
So I learned something new today.
There was a new word in the list that I didn't hear before, Eli. Where's the similes? Because one of the words in about halfway through was a great word that I'd never heard before.
It's like, all of the emulators where you have like 1,000 different Snake games, 1,000 different Tetrises. It's like, yeah, but the function is the same.
What was that list of similes you had a second ago?
You want me to read them out again?
Can you? Because there was one word that I'd never heard before.
It came from... Okay.
I made a mental note to ask you once all of this.
So I just typed in interaction synonym from... So from Oxford. Interplay, interchange, interactivity, interlinkage, reciprocity.
That's the one. Reciprocity.
Reciprocation.
Reciprocity. That's a new word on me.
Yeah. A lot of girls were using that in the 90s when Lauryn Hill came out. Okay.
So what's it mean? Don't say interplay.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. R-E.
I'm presenting it.
Yeah.
Do you want to read it out? Hold on, Eli. Do you want to read it out, Owen?
All right. The practice of exchanging things with others for mutual benefit, especially privileges granted by one country or organization to another.
Yes, it's like a reciprocal agreement, isn't it? So it relates. There's a reciprocity between these two groups.
Right. It's like the method of reciprocation.
Agree. But that's not an interaction. That's just a mutual benefit. It doesn't necessarily.
Right.
Yeah,
it's more like diplomacy. It's a diplomacy-related word.
Yeah.
So could you describe with the word reciprocity how Danny Faulkner has interacted with the anti-flat earthers?
Yeah.
To attack
us? You would, yeah. There is a reciprocity between anti-flat earthers to never define the horizon, and the mutual benefit is it allows them to keep going in circular arguments.
Very good. Just so we're just not, like I said, we weren't doing earlier, just sitting around defining words. And here I am asking you to just define a word because I found it interesting. But there we go. It links nicely back into flat earth like it all should, which is good. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Not yet. Probably never.
One last housekeeping question. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No, sorry. I was on mute.
Right. Oh.
I was just going to say that it's funny. I'm realizing that none of these are actually addressed. That's the crazy part. If you think about it, audience, what was the last one you just read out? Before the last one?
I didn't. You were reading them.
No. I mean the before you, but
any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of cosmology, astronomy, and astrophysics.
Oh, I don't read them.
Right.
I just know them.
So the appropriate answer is, if you were a baller, here's a hypothesis right here. They've never said that. Just think about that, audience. Ask someone this question and see if they can Google it for you or whatever it is that they need to do. They won't do it. Trust me. I know.
Well, there's a reason it's a housekeeping question. There isn't one. Yeah? And as we say, if they did put one together, fundamentally, it's going to require R, which will destroy it. But could they even put it into science? Not really.
Absolutely.
And I think that's the point of recognition you want from them. That's just denied there. That this isn't a field for science.
Yeah, that's the bottom line that Eli thinks, stressing that there is no scientific evidence of gravity whatsoever. So asking for any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics is a way of asking them to just give a simple answer. Here's a hypothesis. Have they ever done it? No, they haven't. But with that, I'm going to say a huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, however, stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching live, this is where we bid you farewell. A huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, hit the thanks button after the fact, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching on a premiering stream, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!